Good morning. This is Senate Judiciary. Um, Wednesday, April 7th. I'm already ahead of myself.
Jeez.
We're working on S99, which is a bill which would eliminate the statute of limitations in cases of child physical abuse. Similar to the bill that we did several years ago, that would eliminate the statute of limitations, or that did eliminate the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse. So that was 2019 when we did that bill. We have with us this morning Eric Fitzpatrick from Legislative Council, Kim Doherty, who represents some survivors from the current Hatton School, survivors of abuse, and Jerry O'Neill, who represented many of the survivors of abuse at various church involved with the Catholic Church, and who was instrumental in the drafting of the bill on eliminating the statute of limitations on child sexual abuse. Again, it's the civil damages, not for the criminal. So, okay, we discussed it, excuse my term. The only notes I have, Eric, on changes to the bill were in a redraft to make clear that attempted aggravated assault, we used to childhood physical abuse, and we were concerned that an attempt at physical abuse would be extremely difficult for anybody to burden to prove, and that since attempts are part of aggravated assault, we wondered how to take that out.
Yes, in fact, I sent, this is Eric Fitzpatrick with the Office of Legislative Counsel. And yes, Senator Sears, I sent Peggy a new version, which she posted that has some language to address the attempts issue. If you want to take a quick look at that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, and I'll pull that up real quick.
That's draft 1.1, Eric?
Yes, exactly. So this is a proposed possible strike all for S99, and at this point, as you say, Senator Sears, this is only only one issue at this point under discussion. But you see, it was actually pretty straightforward. As I looked at it, it seemed like it was actually a pretty relatively straightforward fix. So just to clarify that remember, child physical abuse is the operative term here, because that's the offense for which the proposal is to repeal the statute of limitations. But again, as you mentioned, the issue had been how the difficulty involved with proving an attempt happened so long ago. So it just clarifies that for purposes of this statute, child physical abuse means any act other than an attempt committed by the defendant against the person 18 years of age or under, which would have constituted a violation of the aggravated assault statute in effect at the time. So I think that would actually do it. Because when you look at the language of the aggravated assault statute, it includes attempts. That was the issue that you noted. But by specifying that it's any act other than an attempt, then I think you would exclude those sorts of offenses from the statute of limitations repeal. So if it was just an attempt, then it would be subject to the same 3-year statute of limitations it's in existence currently.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I did have highlighted on page 3, line, I don't know where it is now. I don't think it's gone.
Oh, line 4.
Line
Yep.
7, the
Oh, sorry, line
issue
7, yep.
of gross negligence. Is that the standard that we, is that the same standard we used in the other bill, in the child sexual abuse?
Yes, that's, you see it right above there on line 20.
Okay,
That's obviously a policy decision for the committee, but yes, that was the one you used last time. I should point out there's still that, I didn't fix that typo yet. I missed that on line, also on line 7, refers to sexual abuse. That should be physical abuse.
yep. Any questions for Eric, Kim, or Jerry? If you have any comments, we'd be happy to hear them now. Discussing the bill.
Senators Jerry O'Neill, I think that makes sense, the change in the attempt language, taking that out of there, because you're right. Proof with respect to that would be so challenging. I think it's a wise move to take that out.
Yeah, thank you, Senators. I agree with respect to the attempt language. It may be helpful also when you're actually referencing the statute to also again say except attempts, because it's the statute that actually sets forth the attempts. I think it might be the one that's listed right there in section E, just for clarity. With respect to gross negligence, I understand that that was probably something that was discussed and debated at length with respect to the sexual abuse cases. We have taken a look at how the courts in Vermont utilize that standard, and it is a high standard. We've just put together some of the case law and the interpretation. We're happy to share that with the committee to consider it, and whether or not it should be as equally applicable in a physical abuse case as opposed to a sexual abuse case. I think the standards for sexual abuse are fairly clear. It's physical abuse where it may be muddied a little bit more. So just something to consider as to whether you want as high of a standard on a physical abuse case as you would a sexual abuse case, which is a lot easier to prove.
Can you give us an example? I think it would help.
Yeah, and I'm happy to put this in writing to you all to consider. One case, Canary versus the state, interpreted the standard gross negligence, and the court wrote, gross negligence is substantially and appreciably higher in magnitude and more culpable than ordinary negligence. A driver's momentary inattention by itself is insufficient to warrant a finding of gross negligence. Likewise, falling asleep at the wheel does not in and of itself constitute gross negligence. Obviously, this is a car accidents case. But if you were to look at some of these institutions, could you say that they fell asleep at the wheel and say they do not meet the standard of gross negligence? That's how that court case could be interpreted. So we've just been looking at some of that case law, and we're happy to put that in writing for you all to consider. That's just one of the cases that we came across. And but I do recognize that that was probably debated in the last bill. Probably was a compromise, as I understand it, in the last bill. It's just something, because Senator Sears, you asked about it.
Yep.
We looked into it, and we're happy to provide you something.
Appreciate that.
After that.
Eric, you could take that down now. Thank you.
Sure.
I'd actually like to get to vote the bill out today if possible. It is a Senate bill, and so it is late and would have to get rule suspension.
Can I ask a question, Dick?
Yeah.
Sears. With regard to this whole thing refers on page 3, lines, the end of the first paragraph. Damages may be awarded against an entity, an employed, supervised or had responsibility for the allegedly committing, had the responsible person allegedly committing the physical abuse if there's finding of gross negligence. So I'm wondering, so this specifically says an entity, but I was thinking this was also against an individual person.
No, the individual person. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I think you were probably going to be right on the money, Senator Sears. Against an individual, Senator Nitka, it would be the standard negligence standard that would apply. So lack of reasonable care, the negligence standard. So that's making, in a sense, what that sentence does, which is the same thing that was done with the respect to the sexual abuse cases, was to make a different standard apply when the defendant is an institutional defendant, an entity as a defendant. In those cases, it would be a higher standard of proof. Gross negligence, which is, in shorthand, conscious disregard of a known risk, often is what gross negligence is described as. So it's not just lack of reasonable care under the circumstances, that you knew about a risk and you acted anyway. So I think the decision that the committee reached a couple of years ago was that when you're allowing those actions essentially to revive an action that would have been barred by a statute of limitations, but they're being revived going forward so that, actions long ago can be brought. You may remember it was a contentious discussion in committee with many different witnesses from a lot of different perspectives. I think where the committee landed was have a higher standard when there's an institutional defendant, but keep the negligence standard for an individual.
So when you go back to an individual, what if it was, a 17-year-old? I'm wondering if a 17-year-old living at home sexually molests, say, a 15-year-old. Are the parents of the 17-year-old liable also for failure to supervise?
Do you mean potentially?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think this language has any impact because the parents are individuals. And this is really a question of the institutional defendant there, but it is certainly possible that there could be a negligent supervision claim against the parents in a fact pattern like that.
We're not, the child sexual abuse is not in this bill. I mean, the language is here, but we're focused on the issue of the child physical abuse. And
We are, but it comes right in here at the same time. Right? I mean, that's already in place, I realize, but.
right. Well, we decided on gross negligence because
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Senator Baruth.
Yeah, Ms. Doherty is right. We did have a back and forth and a compromise, and I'm comfortable with that. And I think absolutely we should mirror it in what we do rather than trying to create some different set of standards for physical abuse. So I like the draft as it stands now. I don't have any further issues with the language.
I'm okay with it also.
All right, so majority of the committee is okay with gross negligence for the entity. Yeah, a known risk. I mean, if they knew in some of the testimony. Any other comments on the risk, Jerry? Any comments on the standard?
Senator, thank you. I have none.
If the chair would entertain a motion, I would move that the committee act favorably on draft 1.1.
Senator Baruth has moved that we amend S99 as seen in draft 1.1 with a technical amendment that Eric's going to move. Any further discussion? Not, Peggy, could you please call the roll?
Sorry, give me 1 second. Here's the
Sure.
the phone. Okay. Senator Benning, Senator Benning's not here. Senator Nika,
Yeah, yes.
Senator White,
Yes.
Senator Baruth,
Yes,
Senator Sears.
Yes. Now the motion is that further move that we report S99 favorably as amended.
Ready?
Okay.
Senator
Any
Nika,
further discussion? Hearing none. Peggy, could you please call the roll?
Senator Nika,
Yes.
Senator White,
Yes.
Senator Baruth,
yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes. Amazing. We will get Senator Benning's vote when he returns. So we'll hold on to the draft. Who would like to report this bill?
I would be happy to report it unless you would like to report it.
No, I think it'd be great if you were.
Okay,
That'd be fine.
sure.
Senator Sears, could I ask you a question about
Sure.
procedure? So any S bill now has to go to the Rules Committee in the
Yep.
Senate first to be
Yep.
let out? Okay.
Yep. I believe so. And I do want to talk to Max Representative Grad, so to alert her that this is coming. I mean, they know that we're dealing with Carnat and things.
Okay.
But may not, it'll be up to the House, be up to the Rules Committee first, whether they want to release the bill.
Right.
And then
And then the House Rules Committee will
have to-
take it and decide whether they're going to release it to the committee. Okay. Because I have 3 S bills that,
Do we wait till tomorrow to get Senator Benning's vote?
I
How
think
does
we
that
could
work?
wait till tomorrow, which would
Okay.
give me time to alert Senator Ballant, Representative Grab that we voted out S99, and it'll be going to the Senate Rules Committee, and would they be willing to, take it up?
Okay, so we don't do anything till tomorrow. Send it
No,
up to
I
secretary or
think-
anything. Okay, I just
No,
want to make sure.
it gives Eric time to.
Yep, it still needs to be proofed and edited by our staff, so I'll send it to you, Peggy, once I get it back.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, well, since we had nothing else on the agenda.
are you serious?
Yeah, I didn't expect to do this quickly. I thought, hey, I tell you, the witnesses from both Kern Hatton and St. Joseph's Orphanage were so compelling. They're the ones who really, the bravery of them coming forward, especially somebody 80 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, to look back on what she experienced at Kern Hatton, and then you look at some of the folks that were there from St. Joseph's. Just amazing. And Kim, you were going to get back to us in terms of the budget issue,
Yeah.
if there was something for the survivors of Kern Hatton that we could do similar to what Mark Winberg is doing with St. Joseph's survivors.
Yes, I spoke briefly with Eric on Monday and he alerted me that I need to talk with someone in appropriations.
Well, that's 3 of us right here.
Oh, excellent.
Myself, Senator
You said
Baruth,
you
and
were in
Senator Nitka.
appropriation.
Yeah,
Excellent.
all 3 of us are on appropriations. So if you
Yeah.
can just send us some kind of a memo, we'll be happy to take up.
Okay, and what would you like in the memo? And just sort of our
Just
plan?
sort of a plan to help the survivors
Yep.
of the abuse to similar to what's going on with the St. Joseph survivors.
And
Yeah.
there has to be some place for the money to land.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's the Burlington YMCA, is it? Or-
Yeah, So some organization that's going to agree to, or I suppose you could create an organization for the survivors and open a bank account for the purpose of hiring a facilitator or however you want to spend it. But
Well, or you could do something like United Way of Wyndham County,
Yeah.
because Kern Hatton is in Wyndham County, so that would I would think something like that might be. I was trying to think of an organization in Wyndham County that would
It's actually a good idea.
United
What
Way.
about
I
your
think.
local mental health center?
No.
And would
HCRS?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. I think if you're looking at just a pass through, that it would be less complicated to United Way than to the HCRS, but that's,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the organizations in Wyndham
oh, it's
County.
a great, they're both great. And United Way does a lot of, does a lot of that kind of pass through stuff. And they're very results driven. So.
Okay, so they essentially hold the funds and then disperse it to the potential facilitator counselor
Yeah,
as the, okay.
I think that's how the Burlington situation operates.
Okay.
I think that's how it worked. I don't know if they are the ones that hire the facilitator or how that worked in Burlington.
Okay, and Mr. Winberg may have more information on that.
mm-hmm.
Yes. And would there be a time frame over which that money would be spent, so it isn't all just put out in a swoop and then?
I think it's actually with the Attorney General's office, by the way.
Oh, it is, okay.
I believe that you could contact.
You know, what I'm thinking is, you know, these people have come forward now. There may be others later who might become a part of that group, and it would be good not to have the money all used up at once.
Well, we pre-fund it because they're not starting it until July 1st.
But the way I understand it is the money doesn't go to the people who are there. The money goes for forming the group, and then people could join it any time.
And in the case of Burlington, it was for the facilitator to do all of that work, to reach out to survivors, to organize them, to facilitate at the meetings.
The one who requested the money for the Burlington one of me was the Attorney General.
Yeah.
But I mean,
That might be the place.
Although that might be because it was a Burlington issue.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, it would be great if the AG's office handled
Yeah.
Manhattan too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a colleague who is good friends and is supposed to put me in touch with the AG's office. So we will look into that, and also United Way. And I will also follow up with Mr. Winberg just to get a better sense of how that process worked. So we can put something formal together for you all to consider. And we really appreciate it. This is a critical piece to helping them heal. Many of them have wanted to reach out to each other and seek some sort of counseling together. And this is going to help answer that problem for them. So thank you all so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting when, and I don't remember which person said it, but that they had gone through all kinds of counseling and therapy and everything. But once they were part of this group, that's when they really started to heal.
Yeah.
Well, I think you think you're all alone. You think you're the only one that this ever happened to. And you find out that so many other people are in a similar situation. It makes you feel a little bit better. And that you begin to go through a process with other people. It's not unlike a lot of the group issues. They've experienced something. They may not have been together and may not have been at the same time, but they've already experienced a similar trauma.
Yeah, and I almost think of it, Senator Sears, as when you think about children in an abusive family, you know, they are there for each other. They help heal through, you know, being supportive of one another. I think a lot of them at Kernhatten felt more like these were their family, you know, the other peers were their family. So I think that being able to relate back and move forward together will absolutely.
And it may help some of those who have not yet
Processed. Yeah.
processed the trauma and dealt with it
Mm-hmm.
and are in denial about it. I thought it was fascinating. This woman had taken on herself and donated money to Kernhatten, had become a member of the alumni, had done all those things that you would expect from somebody who was had a positive experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to process in that regard because so much of it was, you know, helping them with food and clothing and a place to live,
Mhm.
you know. So there's that piece that they really feel, you know, a sense of dedication to the organization as a result of that piece of it. And then there's the other piece that's far more challenging to process. So
Well, thank you both very much, Jerry and Kim, and appreciate you being